Before we get started with the video, I wanted to show you the Sleeve Chief One Piece collection that's dropping at 8 p.m. today on the Sleeve Chief website. It's really cool. My personal favorite is the metal dice with many amazing artworks, but you have sleeves, you have a playmat. So make sure if you like this and you want to get it or any other accessory to use my link in the description box below. It really helps the channel. And you can also use my code SHADOW for 5% off at checkout. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Alright, so let's talk budget decks. The only question we're probably asking ourselves right now is what to play at Nationals, what to play at YCS Philly, and what to play at any other event coming up. There's no ban list on the horizon, still. So probably you want to be investing in decks that won't cost you much, as opposed to investing in some that are a tiny bit more expensive overall and then them getting hit on the ban list, which would be very lame. So today we're just going to mention 5 decks that I think are the best choices right now. Some of them are really strong, and yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and also let me know what you're playing in this format and your reasons behind it. I would love to read about all of that. And also, if you like the video, please make sure to like it. It really helps the channel. And you can also sub, make sure to ding the bell so you're notified whenever I post. And if you want to support the channel in any other ways, you're always free to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description box below. You can unlock access to about 20 other videos. There's extra stuff on tiers with me creating personal videos for you guys on your chosen topic, remote dueling me, all of that. So yeah, if you want, you can check it out. And with that, we're going to be starting with the first deck, which is going to be Mech. So Mech pretty much is the best deck on this list. It is at the top of the meta, and I already mentioned it in my best decks list a couple videos back, so I won't spend too much time on it. I will keep it brief when it comes to what the deck does, but we are going to be discussing some prices. So pretty much it has 1-card combos, which makes it so you can play a ton of hand traps to stop the opponents, and you also have enough space to play extenders so the opponents don't stop you. Mech just has a really a good ability of playing around stuff and playing through disruptions with the help of all of the extenders, and then just being able to establish a board, stop the opponent on the following turn with the help of the board plus hand traps. Super Factorial also is insane, and then it just OTKs, pretty much what the deck does in a nutshell. And when it comes to the prices, the core is very cheap to pick up. Literally the only couple expensive cards are going to be Super Factorial and also Sigma. There's still only 1 printings of both of these cards, and it also depends on how many copies of Sigma you want to be running. And as for the extra deck, of course access code is expensive, but access code is also pretty much a Mech at this point, so you kind of need to have it. Some people also play 2 of them. You don't need to do that right off the bat if you don't want to, but just owning access code overall I think is really smart. It's a staple extra deck monster, so you may want to invest in it, play it later down the line, but also invest in a cheap Mech core and just have a very good competitively viable deck. So you can do it if you want. And as for the next deck, it's also one that is very cheap when it comes to the core, but has one very expensive monster that you kind of have to invest into. And it's Sword Soul. It's really cool seeing Sword Soul being good in last year's Nationals format, and also this year's. I think it may not be the top contender, but has a very solid place in the meta. It received the support, indirect support for Sword Soul basically, with the help of Ringo Worm, which is able to special summon itself, grants bodies. It's just a very strong monster. But then we come to the topic of Baron. So you need to play Baron in this deck. It's just way too strong. And also, Baron is pretty much seeing play right now in almost every single deck with the exception of only a few. So if you invest in it, you can also utilize it in other strategies if you decide to do it. And just the Sword Soul core itself is insanely cheap. And the Tiny stuff as well, which is an addition. And then you just fill the rest up with hand traps and other tech cards you want to run, because the deck has enough space for those as well. The only issue with Sword Soul would be that a lot of times you would just get disrupted on your first play and you kind of have to pass if you don't see any extenders. It's not that hard to achieve that, to see extenders. It is quite consistent. You have Emergence, Longyan, just ways of getting to Tenies, other plays, Ecclesia. But sometimes in an unfortunate hand, you kind of just have to rely on only one play to go through, and it just won't. In this meta right now, there are so many disruptions because other people play hand traps as well, so it's not going to be as easy piloting a strategy that's very reliant on some place to go through. However, like I said, you can still have a fairly decent chance of seeing extenders as well. And just if we ignore that fact for a second, all in all, the deck is nice. It's able to OTK. If you draw a specific hand, you're going to be able to do a ton, and it really rewards good gameplay with the deck. And yeah, I would recommend it if you have it still maybe lying around from last year's format. And as for the next deck, it's also one that's not that recent, but it is recently receiving some kind of support actually in Cyberstorm Axis, and the deck is Marincess. Overall, from what we've established so far, right now, if you want to thrive in this meta, you have to be a deck that has enough space to play a bunch of hand traps. And the poster child for that is Marincess. Literally has space to play 18 hand traps if you want, has a ton of one-card combos. It's able to establish a board that may not seem as threatening at first glance, but basically you put up the monster, the Link, which if it's the Aqua Argonaut, I think is called, is also a negate. But overall, the Link is going to be very hard for you to get rid of. It has a ton of attack from the stuff that's equipped to it. And with the trap card, if the trap card like negates and you control the Link, also makes all your face-up monsters unaffected. So the opponent is not going to be able to go through that as easily, and then you have a ton of hand traps as well to stop them. And then on the following turn, you're able to either amass that much advantage that it's just going to sort of not make sense for the opponent to continue, or you OTK. You can also put up Toad if you want. So the deck is very decent. It is kind of, like I said, may not seem as threatening at first, but it's kind of hard to go up against with them having as many hand traps. And like I said, their trap is just really, really good. And the support I mentioned before, you can play the new Adularia monster, which facilitates the water barrier statue lock. Although from what I've seen, not many people are going for that necessarily. But there is the Ice Jade support also with the main deck monster going into the Synchro. And yeah, there's plays there as well. If you want to explore Marincess with the new support, you can do it. And I think it wouldn't be a bad choice. And as for some other decks that have been talked about quite a lot by me on the channel, the next one is Rika. I mentioned this deck in the last budget decks video, and I tend to talk about it a lot because it is very nice, but I'll keep it brief just to not repeat myself. The deck basically is a very cool and strong combo deck. Again, the pattern of hand traps and one-card combos. Of course, we all know like the Unexpected Die or Lokai combo or something. Like the deck is very strong. And also it's quite unknown to some people still, so they won't necessarily know the exact choke points of the deck. And therefore, the deck is able to play through things or around certain hand traps because the opponent just won't know when to disrupt you. So that's also very, very cool. It can also expand in terms of what it's able to do. If you want to spend a bit more money, you can invest into Therian King Regulus, so the Therian package, which again, it is a bit more expensive, but you can add an extra something to the deck by playing these cards. It's also an additional type of interruption, which the deck already puts up so much on the opening turn. It's kind of insane. The disruptions are so interesting, and just there's a lot of them. So you probably will not be able to break that kind of board unless you just open Godly. And then they have hand traps on top of it to stop you. So yeah, I think the deck is just very, very good, has high potential, and rewards skillful gameplay. So if you want to choose that type of deck, which is also cheap, then you can do it. And as for the last deck, we couldn't end this video without mentioning Sprite, I think. Again, one of these decks that pretty much everything is cheap when it comes to the core, but you have to spend a bit more money on blue. And if you want to invest into anything else, you just can decide to do it. But pretty much the core is very inexpensive to get. The only issue with the deck is that if it gets hit on the ban list, which it might happen, the only couple of hits that Sprite received was the Ronin Toad hit, so the access to Toad in some way, and then of course the Sprite Elf hit. But other than that, the engine is still intact. And if they lose Starter, Blue, even Jet, the consistency is going to suffer. The deck is going to slip down the ladder of top decks. So if you don't want to exactly risk, I completely understand, you don't have to do it, but the deck is still very strong. It has a ton of different variants with Melfi Sprite, Evo Twin Runic Sprite, Tri Brigade Sprite, whatever you want to do. I personally think the Melfi version is the best one, and it's also very inexpensive to invest into the Melfi stuff, to just have additional things when you're done with your turn, to go into Herald of Arclight or their Synchro to bounce. I think it's just a very, very cool engine. As for the Evo Twin Runic, the only issue with that deck is that it doesn't have that much space to play non-engine, because you need to pair 3 engines together, and that's hard to achieve and still stay limited to the 40 card deck. So there's that. And as for other stuff, it may not be as strong, but you can still play Sprite any way you want. So yeah, those are going to be the top 5 decks. You can pretty much choose whatever you want, but I would probably recommend Methmeg. It seems like it's the best one and probably won't get hit, although it might happen that they just decide to limit Circular or something because you still have a ton of access to it. And you know, Circular is really busted. I don't know. I have no idea. Literally, you can just choose for yourself. And don't forget to let me know down in the comments which deck you decide to play. I would love to hear it. And yeah, you know, if you like the video, of course, make sure to like it. Check out all the social media. Of course, check out Sleeve Shift and their newest drop. Get your last minute pickups for Nats season on Card Market. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.